Welcome to Everyday Tarot, your daily dive into the divine wisdom of the tarot. I'm your host, Camille A. Saunders, and today I'll be talking about a safe passages spread. Whether you're a seasoned tarot reader or just starting to explore, this podcast offers daily insights, intuitive messages, and practical advice drawn from the cards. Each episode is designed to help you connect with your inner wisdom, find clarity in your decisions, and tap into the energy of the universe. Tune in every day, Monday through Friday, for fresh perspectives and empowering guidance from the tarot as interpreted by me. The best way to support the podcast right now is to listen daily, rate, review, and to follow or subscribe in your chosen podcast app. If you're loving the podcast and want to support me further, you can join my Patreon for behind-the-scenes access to upcoming topics, polls, monthly hangouts, tarot questions, and you can get individual tarot readings and more. The link is in the show notes if you want to check out the Patreon. You can always go to my website, CamilleASaunders.com/everydaytarot for all the latest information related to the podcast and to find images of the cards I pull. If you're local to the greater Puget Sound area, I'd love to see you at my next Let's Talk Tarot meetup group event on April 6th at 11:15 a.m. We'll be meeting at the Haunted Farmers Market in South Tacoma. You can RSVP for that event by following the link for the meetup group in the show notes. If you're interested in a free PDF with the 2025 5-card tarot spread I created just for you at the beginning of the year, you can get that by joining my newsletter list. My weekly newsletter always has the most up-to-date information on upcoming events, presentations, musings, and info and photos of my day-to-day life. The link to sign up for that is in the show notes as well, or you can always sign up via pop-up on my website. And yeah, let's get into it. So we are into season 5 of the podcast. In this season, I am talking all about common tarot spreads. I'm going through 13 different tarot spreads, one per episode, and walking you through an example of what it looks like to do them. If you haven't listened to the other seasons yet, you can go ahead and check those out. The first season, I introduced tarot through talking about oracle versus tarot cards, myths of tarot, and how to find a deck, reading for yourself versus others, and much more. In season 2 and 3, I went through the major arcana and the 4 suits, one per episode. And in season 4, I talked all about tarot in pop culture and examined representations of tarot in video games, TV shows, movies, and more. So let's get into our main discussion. So today I'm talking about a safe passages spread. And this spread actually comes from the TV show that came out in 2024, Agatha All Along. It is a Marvel TV series, a spinoff of WandaVision focused on the character Agatha Harkness. And the episodes are chock full of tarot and witchy goodness. If you want to listen to the tarot and pop culture episode I did on Agatha All Along, that's the first episode of season 4. Which came out right at the end of February of this year. So if you want more details, you can check that out, or you can go watch all of Agatha All Along and then come back and do this tarot spread with me. But yeah, so this, if you haven't watched it, and you're maybe not going to, but you want to know the context. So in the series, a coven of witches are on the Witches' Road, which is like a bunch of witches' trials. They're trying to get their power back. And each episode in the TV show spotlights one of the witches with a trial that she must pass based on her particular witchy skill set. So they do like a potions witch, a green witch, a protection witch, a Wiccan, like chaos witch. They do them all. And so this particular spread was featured in the like tarot episode of Agatha All Along in episode 7. So I got this spread from Benebell, and again, their website is in the show note description. And they were talking about that they actually kind of figured out what the spread was. They go through it in the show, but then like figuring out the actual format of the cards and which each one like is about, they like formalized it and put it into like an image, which is really nice. So they talked about that they love how the online tarot community was sort of like having fun putting together this like tarot spread from the show, even though it's fictional, into like an actual spread that people could do. So it is called the Safe Passages spread. Like I said, it's in episode 7, which is called Death's Hand in Mine. And the spread itself has sort of like Celtic Cross vibes. I am going to do a Celtic Cross spread for my last episode of this season, so coming up in a couple of days. And again, in this episode of the TV show, Lilia Caldero, she's a Roma psychic divination witch. And if you look through the comic books, which of course is like how all of Marvel lore started, she uses the Ancient One's Book of Caligstro for divination. But in the TV series, she uses the tarot, which is super fun because I love seeing tarot in other media. And so in episode 7, it's Lilia's trial. She's doing divination. And this is significant because at first they're doing readings for who they think the person or the querent might be, and they're failing the trial. So Lilia states the querent must shuffle and cut. One of the characters, the potions witch person, root worker, social media influencer, she protests, saying, we don't have time for all that, and Lilia emphatically insists that the querent must shuffle and cut. So, right, she's telling us, this is how we do a spread, and we're gonna do this right. So yeah, let's try this spread out for ourselves. So, right, we ask a question that's crucial to your existence on Earth. That's what Lilia says in the episode. So you can go ahead and follow her instructions. So think of a question we're going to test drive this spread out with. And it needs to be something that is again, crucial to your existence on Earth. So it sounds like, right, this is a pretty serious spread. It does have 7 cards. And again, the Celtic Cross is longer, but right, we're getting longer and longer with our spreads as the season goes on. So to talk about the placement of the cards before we kind of get into it, the first card is in the middle. The second card is the bottom, the middle bottom. And then the third card is the bottom left. The fourth card is the bottom right. The fifth card is upper right. The fifth is upper left, sixth is upper right, and then the seventh is horizontal placed on top of the first card in the middle. And that is sort of the aspect that's similar to a Celtic Cross. A Celtic Cross is sort of like this. It just has additional cards along the bottom right-hand side that are sort of separate from the sort of initial spread image in the middle. And it is longer. And like I said, I'll get into that in a couple of episodes. So if you're curious, you can keep listening for that one. All right, so the questions are sort of the topic for the cards. The first one is about the traveler. So this is sort of you, who you are. The second card is the quest. So maybe what's missing, what journey you're on, what's at stake. The third card is about the path. It's called the path behind. So lessons learned, a space for growth. Or lessons learned, experiences gained. The fourth card is called the path ahead. So again, what's coming up next? What are you discovering? The fifth card is obstacles. So challenges you'll face or maybe have already been facing or wounds suffered. Sixth is the windfall. So things that you've learned after you're facing the obstacles, or this could be powers, blessings, strengths. And then the final card that, like I said, is sort of placed horizontally across the middle is the destination, which is about sort of the future, the ending, where you're going on this journey. So, okay, with all that in mind, think about what sort of question or topic is crucial to your existence on Earth right now. What is the first thing that comes to mind? What's something that feels really powerful that you're really wanting? Again, this is a 7-card spread, so you're going to get a lot of details on it. So think about something that sort of allows for all those details, something you're shifting through right now or wanting to know more about, and just really feeling I really want to know, right, this clarity. I want to know what's up next, what's behind me, what are the obstacles, where am I going, what am I going to gain from this spread. So keep that in mind, and then go ahead and grab your deck, and we can start shuffling. So let's get into it, dive in, and see what the cards have to say. I'm going to go ahead and grab my deck as well. I am going to be reading from the Sasarabito Tarot deck by Stasia Burrington. And yeah, so like I said, go ahead and get shuffling, and we'll get into it. So yeah, be thinking about your question or topic or theme as you shuffle. I'm going to get a few more shuffles in, and then we'll get into it. This is my oldest deck. It's the first one I got, and I shuffle like a card dealer, like a traditional deck of cards dealer. Not everyone does that. Some people are scared it's gonna. I mean, it's sort of challenging, so that's part of it. Some cards are too big or too small to sort of like fit into your hands. But these cards are so well broken in that I like. It's so easy to shuffle them, and I love it. I love like a well-worn deck. All right, so think of your question, right? As Lydia says, we're going to Lilia. We're going to try this for ourselves, right? We're going to, yeah, you must shuffle and cut the deck. So I'm going to go ahead, cut my deck. And then my preference is to lay all the cards face down first so you can't see them, and then flip them over as I go, like one per question. You can have them all facing up if that's what you prefer. I just sort of like the, I don't know, suspense, the clarity, the like the sort of not being influenced by the other ones as I go. Although it will be interesting. I have to flip over the first card, which is underneath the seventh card. All right. So the first one is about the traveler. This is you. This card tells you something about who you are, what you're bringing to the situation, and your core attributes. Okay, and for me, I pulled the Six of Pentacles reversed. So I'm going to go ahead and break out my tarot deck guidebook for this one. Okay, we're into pentacles, coins, spirals, cactus. Those are all the same thing. They are the earth energy, material goods, prosperity, again, like the physical world. And I pulled, again, this is the Six of Pentacles reversed. This deck does have reversal readings in the tarot deck guidebook. So I'm going to read some of the upright stuff and then we'll look at the reversal as well. Okay. Oh, interesting. So this is about giving and receiving, have or have not, or being dominant or submitting. It says an exchange of some kind takes place on the card. It appears that some substance is being passed from one individual's mouth to the others. You will either receive or give something great value. The black line, sort of in between these people, symbolizes the gift, money, knowledge, assistance, or power. At first glance, it appears the person on top is the giver and the person below is the receiver, but is this really the case? Teachers learn from students. The card is an invitation to question our assumptions about the appearance of balance. There is subtle interplay between the giver and the taker. Who are you in this equation? Be generous with and open to receiving great gifts of wisdom, time, and energy. So I'm going to read the reversal sort of definition now because mine is reversed. So this says, a role as a giver or taker is too imbalanced. The danger is in giving so much that you're prone to being taken advantage of, or in taking more than your share, getting into debt, or becoming a burden. In a relationship, this could mean one partner is doing a lopsided amount of work. So, right, if the upright is about balance, giving and receiving, have a have not, then right now it's telling me the reversal is about that it's not, or we're imbalanced, right? That maybe I'm giving too much, maybe I'm taking too much, being taken advantage of, that kind of thing. All right, okay, let's move on to the second one, which is the quest. And again, this is the bottom card in the middle. This is about what's missing, the journey to be undertaken, what's at stake, and the reason for your quest. Let's go ahead and flip that over. I pulled the Sun. Okay, so the Sun is a major arcana card. It is near the end of the major arcana. It is the numbers 19 in that. And the sun, right, if we think about it literally, it's hot, it's blinding, in its clarity. So this card, right, this card's often, a lot of people feel like this is the best card in the deck to get. So it indicates success, joy, warmth, and happiness. It's simple, brilliant, enthusiastic, and indicative of good things and positive outcomes. The card indicates attained knowledge, personal power, and enlightenment. There is a quote for this card. A lot of the major arcana ones in this deck have quotes, and it says, "Life is so damn short. For fuck's sake, just do what makes you happy." A quote by Bill Murray. So, right, figuring out what makes me happy, it sounds like. So perhaps that's what's missing. Right, sounds like positive outcomes are on the way. What's at stake is like this knowledge or personal power or enlightenment that's like possible as I go about this journey around my question of what I'm thinking about. Yeah, and I guess that one's pretty short and sweet for me. All right, okay. So for the third card, the path behind, that is the one at the bottom left. So this one's about wounds suffered, lessons learned, and experiences gained. I'm going to go ahead and flip that over, and I pulled the Eight of Wands. So wands are fiery energy, creativity, and again, this is an 8, so we are getting close to the end of like the journey. If you think of aces as the beginning and tens as the sort of end or conclusion of a journey. So, we're 80% of the way there. And the Eight of Wands is all about action, speed, focus, and messages. It says, when it's time to act, if your arrows are ready and your mind is clear, do not hesitate. This is a card of high energy and motion and an invitation for you to act. Also, possibly future air travel. I chose to portray these wands as arrows, fast flying and true to their aim. This card to me illustrates being in the zone. Once your foundation is strong and your muscles practiced, you can act with efficiency and without effort. Okay, so action, speed, focus, and messages. Which is interesting because this is the path behind, or the wounds suffered, the lessons learned, and experiences gained. It sounds like perhaps in the past for me, I wasn't sort of like striking when the iron was hot. And I would say that that feels pretty accurate, especially in my business, feeling like, oh, I have these ideas and I want to act on them, but feeling like very blocked, like feeling like I have all this creativity, but having a hard time like finding the joy in it or actually getting it done, finding the motivation, and actually sort of like being in that flow, like that zone that they talk about in the card description. And that now I would say that, like it says, once the foundation is strong, your muscles practice, you can act with efficiency and without effort. And I would say that, like, for me, that feels a lot easier now. Like, I kind of know how to do it. I know what to do when I get blocked. I know how to feel into when it feels right to act. If I have an idea, I'm acting on it within like a day or a week or at most like 3 weeks, which now feels very long. Whereas I would say even like 2 years ago, it was taking me like months to like actually act on ideas that I had, that I was just getting very caught up in excuses or, oh, I don't know how to do that, or I don't know how it's going to be taken, or all of that kind of thing. So, I'm being a little more transparent about what this card is meaning to me right now, because I think it can be hard sometimes when it feels like, okay, I'm doing this spread, I pull this card, and like I'm not totally like sure how this, like what this is telling me. So I figured, it's helpful if I share sort of what I feel like this card is telling me, and kind of, since this is the path behind, right, this was my wounds suffered, lessons learned, right, okay, I was getting, instead of striking when the iron was hot, as they say, right, sometimes I would go and create something, and then by that time, crickets, or because I was only putting something out every couple months, if it didn't go well, it just felt so big and like terrible, and like, oh, I would get so down on myself. Whereas now, like sometimes I'll put things out, or again, like, right, I'm doing this tarot podcast, like some episodes do better than others, or right, people have interest in different things, or like now that I'm more in the practice of creation, it doesn't feel as high stakes. Because maybe I'm putting out 20 different things, right? I'm doing a podcast every day, Monday through Friday. So if one of them doesn't do super well, or I feel like, oh, I don't have that much to talk about, it's okay. I get to try again tomorrow, right? I get to put on another episode. I get to create a new thing and try that out and collect data from it. And instead of sort of taking that on as like a personal burden or failing of myself. It's like, okay, that didn't work. Like, move on, do the next thing, right? All right, so the fourth card is all about the path ahead, a space for growth and discovery. What's coming up next? All right, so I pulled the Ace of Wands reversed. So we have another Wands, another sort of creative energy. But of course, this one is reversed, so that's kind of interesting. And again, not totally sure exactly how to interpret this right off the bat, but we're going to read the description and the reversal and yeah, just kind of see what's here. So again, the Ace of Wands upright is about beginnings, creativity, adventure. Again, we have that Wands energy, the fire and creativity. So embarking on a new adventure, exciting, stimulating, it can be scary. The illustrator says, right, I chose to illustrate this card with a wand used similarly to a paintbrush or a pencil resting in the middle of a labyrinth. You hold the instrument and are in control of where this journey leads. You are the author of your story. This card signifies the beginning of an adventure and the invitation for fun and discovery. Have confidence and be fearless in your creative exploration. All right, so reversed, and again, this is the path ahead, so this is maybe something I'm feeling like challenged by in the path coming up. It says you may not know what it is that you want or are having a hard time creatively. Maybe you're stuck in old patterns of thinking. Here's an invitation to try something new and get out of your comfort zone. Feel free to explore and play non-committally and maybe take yourself less seriously. All right. So yeah, that one again, there's sort of something that came to mind when I thought about it. I just co-founded a networking group that like a local one for my area. We're going to meet in person once a month. I live in Sumner in Washington State. And yeah, right now I'm thinking about that sort of as like, oh, this is a new thing I'm doing, right? We're still sort of in the like, what do we want this to be? We had our first meeting, but we're still sort of in this creation phase. I'm also considering joining my like Chamber of Commerce for the Puyallup Sumner area, which again is my local area. And it sounds like, right, I'm also being called to like not take myself so seriously. I know when I was a part of networking groups before, I would always be like, oh, I have to dress like business casual, or like, oh, like it's gotta be like I gotta be up there super early in the morning and on top of it. And honestly, it used to just make me sleep like terribly the night before. I put a lot of pressure on myself. I got very like good student about it. Like, oh, am I taking notes? Am I like getting everything out of it as I can? It was hard for me to like sink into it and actually enjoy it. It took like months and months, I would say. So it sounds like for me that maybe, right, in this new adventure, in creating this networking group and creating this space locally for folks to meet in person, I need to be thinking about that of like how to make it fun, how to show up as my true authentic self, which is usually not wearing business casual clothes, to be honest. That doesn't really feel like me. Often when I wear them, I feel like I'm putting on someone else's clothes or like I'm not really, that's not usually how I actually show up to therapy either. Like I work from home, people see me on a screen, and I dress pretty cozy, comfy, bohemian, handmade clothing or hand dyed and pop culture references on my shirts and colorful and all those things. So I think for me, this is kind of calling me to, again, like be confident in who I am and that I don't need to show up as something else, especially in this space where my tendency might be to like create a different persona or that I need to show up in a way that I deem more professional than I think I am, which that just sort of like belittles my own, right? Like knowledge and experience and things like that. So to actually like take it in and be like, no, show up as yourself, right? Show up as what you actually want. Ask about the clients that you want to have, right? Be authentic and don't like put on this persona because then you don't allow people to get to know the real you. Okay, on to card 5, which is the top left. I'm flipping it over. And this card is about obstacles. So wounds suffered, challenges that you face or are going to face. If it's a past event, maybe it designates what pain you've had to go through to get to where you are. If it's indicating a future event, it might be more of like a warning sign. All right, so mine, another reverse. So I pulled the Page of Swords. And just looking at this card, it has like a very determined person holding a sword on it. All right, so this is my first swords card in this pull. Okay, there we go. So swords are about air energy or an intellect, or sometimes like thoughts. So it can be like overthinking or anxiety as well, the sort of like intellectualizing things or kind of maybe getting caught up in your head. Okay, and this is the Page of Swords that I pulled. So again, I'll read the upright and then we'll look at the reversal. So upright, this would be about honesty, integrity, and optimism. It says messenger for future challenges. Stay clear, look problems right in the eye, and keep a strong mind. The young woman on the card stands tall, keeps integrity, and approaches things honestly. Use reason and have resilience. She approaches conflict with an optimistic, adventurous spirit. Energetic. The multiple eye motifs on her cape reinforce the virtue of keeping your eyes clear and open to new ideas. The birds in the background symbolize high ideals, freedom, and grand aspirations. So again, speaking about some specific things in the art of this card. So it says reversed, it says the youth of the page may indicate acting quickly without the appropriate foresight. Be mindful of your words and actions as you excitedly tackle your projects. So it sounds like, right, maybe really thinking about things before we take them on or approach them. Right, again, if I think about the card from earlier, the This Is Me card, my Six of Pentacles reversed, that was sort of about imbalance, right? Sometimes giving more than taking. And again, as I sort of think about this networking thing or just sort of like future challenges that might come up, right, I need to be careful that maybe I'm not giving too much and then not receiving or not allowing myself to receive, which I think also goes quite along with like the authenticity, as the last card was sort of suggesting, right? That again, if I'm not being my authentic self, I'm not really allowing myself to receive, right, good referrals or like personal like relationships or communication, because I'm not really allowing people to like actually get to know me. So there is this sort of like barrier to that. And so this is sort of telling me, right, like don't act too quickly, right? Like be methodical and be mindful of like what you're expressing and everything as you tackle these projects, right? So just keep that in mind as I move forward and as I'm confronting new challenges or, right, different things like that, or conflict as well. Okay, card 6 is the Windfall. So gains to be had after facing obstacles. What else? Yeah, powers, blessings, and strengths that might come to be. So yeah, what's sort of like your special thing, right? What are you gaining from maybe some of these lessons you're learning or the challenges that are going to come up? And also, yeah, just what's kind of coming up there, thinking about what you're going to gain from this. So I pulled the Ace of Pentacles, and that is again my first Pentacles cards of the, nope, it's my second. I pulled the Six of Pentacles first. So the Ace, again, that's the, right, if we think of tens as the end of the journey, aces are the beginning. So, you know, in each suit, they sort of can sometimes be like a microcosm of how the major arcana is. So the ace is a little bit more like the fool, right? Stepping blindly off that cliff, having a lot of, right, enthusiasm and excitement, and maybe not always totally thinking everything through, but also just allowing yourself to be in the learning process. So, okay. So again, as I'm thinking about the windfall, the gains to be had after facing obstacles, the Ace of Pentacles, and again, Pentacles are about earth energy, material prosperity, material goods, like the physical realm. Sometimes it can be about like grounding. This one has like, it depicts like a a person with flowers and there's bees around them. So they sort of have this like natural nature energy. So it says this card is all about prosperity, practicality, and the physical world. The promise of physical prosperity. The Ace of Pentacles represents a seed that has been planted, which will result in tangible security. This card recommends foundation building, setting the stage for good things to come in your future. Growth, prosperity, nature, and being down to earth. This isn't a card about daydreaming and fantasy, it is a card for doing. Do something today for your future self. They will thank you, be it doing something good for your body, feeding your mind, investing, or building something physical. This is a good card for business and entrepreneurship. Love that, since I have a business and I'm an entrepreneur. So it sounds like, right, what I'm going to gain is this like connection with earth and physical things. I'm thinking about like doing somatic work. It sounds like also just sort of general prosperity, right? Sort of planting seeds or sending out, right? Sent out proposals recently, sort of that like new things are coming in and like sort of set up your foundation so that when they do come, you're ready to receive. I think last episode I talked about Ina Gardner's book that's called Be Ready When the Luck Happens. And that's like really what it's making me think about now, where it's sort of like, right, set up your life, set up your things to be ready for when that luck happens, when the things do come to you, right? You might have been toiling for a long time, but building that foundation and might have felt really challenging, right? This says don't be daydreaming or be in fantasy. You need to actually do things. And I know I've definitely been in daydreaming and fantasy before. It sounds like, right, I need to get to the practicality, start making, right, physical steps towards the things that I want, right, be that in the body or in your mind or investing, right, financially or creating or building something in the physical realm. All right. Okay, and finally, we're going to flip over our seventh card, which is the destination, the omen of the future, the ending, yeah, whatever that will be. So, okay, I flipped it over, and it's going to be hard to tell if this is reversed or not since it's horizontal, but I pulled the Knight of Wands. So, more wands. So in this spread, ultimately, I pulled 3 wands cards, a sword, 2 pentacles, and 1 major arcana of the sun. It's just kind of interesting sometimes to look at what kind of patterns come up in your spread. Sometimes you might pull literally all cards of the same suit or all major arcana cards. And just that's interesting to note, right? To see those patterns. All right, so the Knight of Wands, energetic, charming, self-confident, and sometimes risky. So it says the Knight of Wands is seductive and disarming, and they know it. They are adventurous and spontaneous with contagious energy. They want to be in the middle of the action. Danger be damned. They are a man of action, and they signify that your creative endeavors are going full speed ahead. All right, and again, if we think about knights in tarot, so it goes ace through 10, and then we have page, knight, queen, king. So again, we're in this sort of like, we're 80% of the way there to if kings are the end and aces are the beginning, right? If this is considered a like court card, or at least like that's a terminology I would use for like a traditional deck of cards, a card playing deck. That so sometimes that means that this is like a stronger energy or like something you need to listen to even more. Same with major arcana cards, right? Can just mean that like whatever the message is, it's just like 10x as powerful or as right gonna come through. So this one says, right, like be adventurous, spontaneous. It sounds like my future is adventurous and spontaneous. And perhaps risky, which I think, again, thinking about the context of this spread, right? Like I talked about earlier that sometimes in the past, like I did a lot of like thinking and thinking and thinking and dreaming before doing, right? And again, that last card I pulled was also about doing, like in the physical world, about like creating things and actually like even like things like gardening or like doing things like creating physical things that like that can show physical change, right? Again, like gardening. I'm in spring here and early garden season for me. And so there is a lot of change right now, right? We're in Aries season. We're in the spring energy. Aries is fiery. A fire moves quickly, right? If you think about it, the spark can just start, right? It can be really good, or sometimes it can be really destructive. And that's kind of what I'm getting from this card, right? It's like there's a lot of energy, there's confidence, and whatever you're doing, you're going full speed ahead. So it sounds like my future right now is going full speed ahead, which can be kind of exciting, right? Especially since, so yeah, let's look at the reversal just to sort of see, like, okay, if we pull this reverse, since I don't totally know, since it's a horizontal card. So reverse, this would be about being like arrogant potentially, or annoying, or like overly, right, ambitious maybe, or like maybe your ambition is being reckless or hot-headed. Be careful of being drawn into the night's more dangerous tendencies, it says, and of exhibiting them yourself. So, right, like if you're all about the danger and the risk, sometimes that means like you're going to get burned, right? If we're going to use the literal, the fire, like the Aries season, the Wands energy, which is fiery, right? But sometimes being risky means sometimes it will pay off, and sometimes you might burn it all down. And so just sort of being, right, thinking about that edge, right? Where is the line between, okay, I'm taking action, right? I am pushing myself, I'm being confident, I'm putting out a lot of, right, proposals or feelers, or I'm creating a lot of stuff. But also, right, it could be like, if you think about, again, fire, when we talk about the word burnout, right, we're sometimes talking about like what happens with a fire, right? Like if we think about burning. So, right, you have a fire, it sparks, the fire starts going, it's ripping through the forest or wherever it is, it's going, devouring everything in your bonfire. And if you don't feed it enough, right, if it doesn't have enough to, like, to consume, the fire will burn out. And again, when we think about forest fires, like that's usually what we want to happen, or at least, right, that's sometimes the idea when it starts getting close to people's lives, or, right, destroying people's homes. Like no one wants that. And, right, that when with things like climate change, we are playing risky. I don't want this to get into too much of a rant, but like with the current weather and the climate warming and climate catastrophe becoming more normal, like we are on this line of, or even some would say, right, over the line of like, okay, we're going to experience a lot of danger. We're going to experience a lot of hot-headedness, which, if you live in the US and current politics, you might know what I'm talking about. There's going to be a lot of arrogant, cocky, annoying, right? So this is sort of the other side of confidence, is that you can have that, like, people feel out of touch with what's going on with the average person, or that they're not really experiencing it, right? So the risk that they're utilizing or exhibiting doesn't impact them. Ultimately, it impacts a lot of other people. All right, that was a bit of a rant, but so yeah, for my destination, it sounds like, right, we have to think about where that line is for me. Where am I know that I'm pushing myself, that I'm not just staying stagnant or getting too caught up in the dreaming or the fantasy and not doing enough, but also making clear that, right, like creation, especially a foundation, takes time and deliberation and planning. And that's different from daydreaming, right? Planning, again, is like creating things in the physical world. It's making spreadsheets. It's looking at maps. It's, again, I'm thinking of specific things, but it's, right, looking at your budget, all of those things. And that then when you get the opportunity, then you know exactly what your budget is and you can go forward and buy that house, right? All right. So that was a long spread today. We're getting into a longer episode, but I hope you enjoyed that. Links for the tarot decks will always be in the show notes and on my website if you'd like to look at them or purchase them. And thanks for joining me today on Everyday Tarot. Just as a reminder, the podcast comes out daily, Monday through Friday for all of 2025. All right, see you soon. Bye-bye.